Now mark this. This is one that my first day as a customer of a reputable stock exchange house, and only 2 hours of it at that I trade in 1100 shares of stock, jumping in out, and the net result of the day operations was what that I lost exactly $1100. That is to say, one my first attempt, nearly one half of my stake went up the flue, and remember, some of the trade show me a profit, but I quit $1100 minutes of the day. It didn't worry me because I couldn't see where there was anything wrong with me. My movies also were right enough, and if I had been trading in the old compensation shop, I'd have broken better than even that. The machine wasn't at it out to be my 1100 vanished dollar, plainly told me. But as long as the machinist was all right, there was no need to steal ignorance at 22-inch structural defect. After a few days, I said to myself, I can I can try it this way. Here the tickle doesn't help as it should, but I let it go at the without getting down to bedrock. I kept it up, having good days and bad days until I was clean out. I went to old Florian and got him to stock me to $500, and I come back from St. Louis as I told you, with money I took out of the bucket shop 3, a game I couldn't always beat. I played one more carefully and did better for a while. As soon as was in easy circumstances, I began to live pretty well. I made friends and had a good time. I was not quite 23, remember. I all alone in New York with easy money in my pockets and the belief in my heart that I was beginning to understand the new machine. I was making allowance for the actual execution of my orders of the floor of the exchange and moving more carefully, but I was still sticking to the step. That is, I was still ignoring general principle, and as long as I didn't that, I could not spot the exact trouble with my game. We run into the big room of 91, and I made a great deal of money. That is for a boy can remember those times. The pro- prosperity of the country was unprecedented. We not only run into an area on industrial consolidation and compensation of capital that beat anything we had up to that time, but the public went stock made in previous few times. I had heard Wall Street used to brag of 250,000 shares a day when securities of a proud value of $25 million changed hand. But in 91 we had 3 million shares day. Everybody was making money. The still crowd come to town and herd of millionaires with no more regard for money than drunken shell is the only game that satisfied them was the stock market. We had some of the biggest high roller the street ever. So John W. Gates of Bet You a Million firm and his friends like Jones, a dark loyal Smith, and the rest the red leads. More crowd who sold part of their still holding, and the processing budget in the open market. The actual majority of the stock of the Great Rock Island system and sandwich and fried and pips and the pitching quarters, to say nothing, of course, of men who were lost in the shelf, but wouldn't have been called great plugger at any other time. A fellow called but and sell all the stock there was Kent made a market for the US steel shares. A broker sold on 100,000 shares in a few minutes. And wonderful time, and there were some wonderful winnings, and no taxes to pay on stock sales, and no day of raking in sight. Of course, after a while, I had a lot of calamity howling, and the old stagers aside, everybody except them Timeless had gone crazy, but everybody except himself was making money. I know, of course, there must be a limit to the advance and the and end of the crazy buying of AOT, an old thing. And I got bearish, but every time I sold a lot money, and if it hadn't been that I run drank quit, I have lost a help more. I looked for a break, but I was playing safe, making money when I budget and chipping it out when I sold short, so that I wasn't profiting by the boom as much as you think when you consider how heavily I used to trade even as a boy. 3 was one stock that wasn't short of and was going Northern Pacific. My tape trading come in handy. I thought most stock had been budget to stand still, but Little Nipper behaved as if we're going still higher. We know now that both the common and the perfect were being steadily observed by the cum lamb harming combination will as was long 1,000 shares of Northern Pacific Common and held it against the advice of everybody in the office. When it got to about 110, I had 30 points profit and garbage in it made by balance it my brokers nearly $50,000, the greatest amount of money I had been able to accumulate up to that time. It was so bad for a chap who had lost every can trading in that self same office a few months before. If you remember, the Hermine crowd notified Morgan and Hill of their initiation of respected in the Burlington Great Northern Pacific combination on, and the Morgan people at first instructed Kent to buy 50,000 shares of ENP to keep the control in the permission. I had heard that Ken told Robert Beckham to make the order 150,000 shares, and the bankers did. At all events, Ken sent one of his brokers, Idle Norton, into the NP crowd, sell 100,000 shares of the stock. This was followed by another order, I think, of 50,000 shares additional, and the famous corner followed after the market close 8 p.m.